Dear Sangha, before we begin our regular Sunday service, we would like to invite everyone to join us in some guided meditation before we begin our service. Kính mời đại chúng tìm cho mình một chỗ ngồi và một tư thế ngồi vững chãi, thoải mái. Nhưng lưng của chúng ta giữ vừa thẳng. Chúng ta không cần phải gồng cứng lưng, nhưng chúng ta giữ cho tư thế ngồi của chúng ta được thẳng. We invite you to find a comfortable place and posture to sit in, maintaining an upright back, but not tense. Relax the body, buông thư toàn thân. Your hands can be relaxed on your knees with the palms facing down, or your right hand can be placed on your left with the thumbs joined together, placing both hands snugly into your lap, just like the way the Buddha places his hands in meditation. Hai bàn tay của chúng ta có thể thả lỏng trên hai đầu gối, hoặc bàn tay phải đặt lên bàn tay trái và đặt cả hai bàn tay của chúng ta ở dưới rốn và thả lỏng vào lòng trước bụng của mình, như cách Đức Phật Ngài đặt hai bàn tay trong tư thế thiền định. We can close our eyes if we'd like to, or we can keep them a little open and look down at the ground in front of us if we're sleepy. Chúng ta có thể nhắm mắt lại, hoặc nếu chúng ta mệt hoặc buồn ngủ thì chúng ta mở mắt ra một chút và chúng ta nhìn xuống trước mặt mình khoảng độ 1 thước. And once we have found a comfortable posture that is stable, solid, and at ease, we are invited to return to our breathing with awareness. As we breathe in, we recognize the in-breath, and as we breathe out, we recognize the out-breath. Chúng ta trở về với hơi thở bằng sự ý thức của mình, ý thức hơi thở vào và hơi thở ra, thở vào và thở ra một cách tự nhiên, không cần gượng ép. We breathe naturally without any need to force ourselves to breathe in any particular way. Just allow the breath to flow naturally in and out, and being aware of the breath, letting go any thinking. If our mind wanders off, then we recognize that our mind is wandering off and bring it back to the present moment, back to the breath. Và nếu tâm của chúng ta rong ruổi, tâm của chúng ta bị phóng ra bên ngoài, thì chúng ta ý thức và đưa tâm trở về, đưa ý thức trở về với hơi thở. will practice some guided meditation before we begin our Sunday service. Breathing in, I'm aware this is an in-breath. Breathing out, I'm aware this is an out-breath. In, breath, out, breath. Thở vào, tôi biết tôi đang thở vào. Thở ra, tôi biết tôi đang thở ra. Vào, ra. Breathing in, my breath grows a little deeper. Breathing out, my breath grows a little slower. In, deep, out, slow. Thở vào, hơi thở của tôi tự nhiên và nhẹ nhàng, sâu hơn một chút. Thở ra, hơi thở của tôi chậm hơn một chút, một cách tự nhiên. Thở vào, sâu, thở ra, chậm. Breathing in, I enjoy my in-breath. Breathing out, I enjoy my out-breath. Thở vào, tôi tận hưởng hơi thở vào. Thở ra, tôi tận hưởng hơi thở ra. Vào, tận hưởng. Ra, tận hưởng. In-breath, enjoy. Out breath, enjoy. Breathing in, I'm aware I have a body. It is alive, a wonder of life. Breathing out, I release the tensions in my body, smiling to my body. Thở vào, tôi ý thức hình hài tôi đang còn sống. Và điều đó là một sự nhiệm màu. Thở ra, tôi buông thư tất cả những căng thẳng trong hình hài tôi, mỉm cười với hình hài tôi. In, awareness of body. Out, smile and release tensions. Vào, ý thức hình hài. Thở ra, mỉm cười và làm lắng dịu hình hài. Breathing in, I know that I am alive, and I smile to life in and around me. Breathing out, I dwell wonderfully in the present moment. Alive, smiling to life, dwelling happily in the present moment. Thở vào, tôi ý thức rằng sự sống đang có mặt cho tôi, mỉm cười với sự sống. Thở ra, tôi an trú trong giây phút hiện tại tuyệt vời. Thở vào, mỉm cười với sự sống. Thở ra, an trú trong giây phút hiện tại tuyệt vời. Dear Sangha, we would like to invite everyone to open their eyes and stretch out their legs, as well as we would like to ask for your support. If you happen to have your cellular device, we would like to ask for your support to turn it to vibration mode or silent mode. Thank you for your practice. Kính thưa đại chúng, vị nào có mang theo điện thoại thì xin quý vị hoan hỷ chuyển điện thoại của mình sang chế độ im lặng. Xin cảm ơn đại chúng.
Xin mời đại chúng đồng quy số và mở quyển kinh sang trang số 0. Please open the Chanting book on page 0. Châm hương đô sống ngát mười phương, nguyện nguyện kinh đứng nghiêm từ vô lượng, cầu cầu xin chứng tâm thành chúng con. phần đạo đồng cùng nhau tu tinh tấn mau viễn thành. Nam mô Bổn Sư Thích Ca Mâu Ni Phật. Nam mô Bổn Sư Thích Ca Mâu Ni Phật. In gratitude we offer this incense through all space and time, to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May it befriend us and ourselves, reflecting careful effort, wholehearted awareness, and the fruit of understanding slowly ripening. May we and all beings be companions of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May we awaken from forgetfulness and realize our true home. The one who bows and the one who is bowed to are both by nature empty. Therefore, the communication between them is inexpressibly perfect. Our practice center is the net of Indra, reflecting all Buddhas everywhere. And with my question in front of each Buddha, I go with my whole life for refuge. Offering light in the 10 directions, the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, to whom we bow in gratitude.
Một lòng kính lạy Phật Pháp và Tăng thường trú trong mười phương. Teaching and living the way of awareness in the very midst of suffering and confusion. Shakyamuni Buddha, the fully enlightened one, to whom we bow in gratitude. Một lòng kính lạy Đức Phật Bổn Sư Thích Ca Mâu Ni. Showing the way fearlessly and compassionately, the stream of all ancestral teachers, to whom we bow in gratitude. Một lòng kính lạy chư vị tổ sư qua các thời đại từ Tây Trúc đến Việt Nam và hải ngoại.
Kính mời đại chúng mở sang trang số 4, turn to page 4.
Nam mô tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Nam mô tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Nam mô tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. The Dharma is deep and lovely. We now have a chance to see, study, and to practice it. We vow to realize its true meaning. Nam mô Thích Bổn Sư Bổn Thích Ca Mâu Ni. Nam mô Thích Bổn Bổn Thích Ca Mâu Ni. Nam mô Đức Bổn Sư Bổn Thích Ca Mâu Ni. Pháp Bụt cao siêu mẫu nhiệm cơ duyên mây đường khó trì. Xin nguyện đi vào biển tuệ, tinh thông giáo nghĩa huyền vi. Kinh thỉnh yêu ban nhà ba la món đa Bồ Tát quan tự tại khi quán chiếu tâm sâu ban nhà ba la món tương diệu vạn chi độ bồng soi tây năm quần. Nếu không có tự tâm thời chứng điều ấy, xong Ngài vừa thoát tất cả mọi khổ đau ách nạn. Nghe đây xóa lời tự sắc, chẳng khác gì không, không chẳng khác gì sắc. Sắc chính thực là không, không chính thực là sắc. Còn lại bốn phương kia không đều như vậy cả. Xa lời tự nghe thấy thể mọi pháp đều không, không sanh cũng không diệt, không dơ cũng không sanh, không tim cũng không bữa, cho nên trong tâm không có sắc, có tưởng cũng không có vì không có sở đắc, vì một vị Bồ Tát nương nhiều pháp chi độ
Bát Nhã Ba La Mật thì tâm không chướng ngại, vì tâm không chướng ngại nên không có sợ hãi. Xa lìa mọi mộng tưởng, xa lìa mọi điên đảo, đạt niết bàn tuyệt đối chư Phật trong ba đời.
Ba chi độ Bát Nhã Ba La Mật nên đáng vô lượng giác, vậy nên phải biết rằng Bát Nhã Ba La Mật là linh chú đại thật, là linh chú đại minh, là linh chú vô lượng, là linh chú tuyệt định,
Là chân lý bất vọng, có năng lực tiêu trừ tất cả mọi khổ nạn. Cho nên tôi muốn thuyết câu thần chú trí độ Bát Nhã Ba La Mật. Nói xong Đức Bồ Tát liền đọc thần chú rằng:
Ga te ba ga te ba ga sam ga te bồ đề xoa, ga te ba ga te ba ga sam ga te bồ đề xoa, ga te ba ga sam ga te bồ đề xoa. Kính mời đại chúng đồng lắng lòng nghe và chiêm nghiệm kinh độ người hấp hối. Đây là những điều tôi được nghe hồi Bụt còn cư trú tại tu viện cấp cô độc trong vườn cây kỳ đà gần thành Xá Về. Một hôm, trưởng giả cấp cô độc bị bệnh nặng. Đại Đức Xá Lợi Phất được báo tin, liền tìm Đại Đức A Nan và nói: Sư đệ, nên cùng ta đi thăm cư sĩ Xá Lợi Phất. Đại Đức A Nan khoác áo cầm bát, cùng đi vào thành Xá Về để khất thực với Đại Đức Xá Lợi Phất. Hai vị tuần tự đi từng nhà, cho đến khi tới nhà trưởng giả cấp cô độc thì ghé vào thăm. Ngồi trên ghế, Đại Đức Xá Lợi Phất hỏi trưởng giả cấp cô độc: Bệnh tình của cư sĩ thế nào? Có tăng, có giảm gì không? Những đau đớn trong cơ thể cư sĩ có từ từ bớt đi chút nào, hay là lại gia tăng? Trưởng giả cấp cô độc trả lời: Thưa Đại Đức, bệnh tình của con không thấy thuyên giảm. Những đau đớn trong cơ thể đã không bớt, mà còn càng lúc càng tăng. Đại Đức Xá Lợi Phất bảo: Bây giờ đây cư sĩ nên cùng với chúng tôi thực tập quán niệm về Bụt, về Pháp và về Tăng. Chúng ta hãy quán niệm như sau: Bụt là Như Lai, là bậc giác ngộ chân chánh và cao tổ, là người, là bậc minh hạnh túc, người là bậc thiện thể, người là bậc thế gian giải, người là bậc vô thượng sĩ, người là bậc điều ngự trưởng phu, người là bậc thầy của trời người, người là Bụt, người là Thế Tôn. Pháp là giáo lý của Như Lai chỉ dạy, rất thậm thâm, rất đáng tôn kính, rất đáng quý trọng. Không có đạo lý nào sánh bằng. Pháp đó là con đường thực tập của các bậc hiền thánh. Tăng là đoàn thể tu học dưới quyền chỉ dẫn của Như Lai, trên thượng dưới hòa, không có tranh chấp. Pháp nào cũng tu tập thành tựu. Đoàn thể tôn nghiêm thánh thiện này thành tựu được giới, thành tựu được định, thành tựu được tuệ, thành tựu được giải thoát. Tăng là phước điền vô thượng của thế gian. Này cư sĩ, thực tập quán niệm như thế về Bụt, về Pháp và về Tăng thì công đức không thể nghĩ lường được. Quán niệm như thế thì tiêu diệt được tội chướng và phiền não, thu hoạch được những kết quả ngọt ngào, tươi mát như cam lộ. Vị thiện nam tử hoặc thiện nữ nhân nào biết quán niệm về tam bảo thì chắc chắn sẽ không bao giờ đọa vào 3 con đường ác là địa ngục, ngạ quỷ và súc sanh. Trái lại sẽ được sinh ra những hoàn cảnh tốt của cõi trời và cõi người. Bây giờ chúng ta hãy quán niệm như sau về 6 giác quan. Con mắt này không phải là tôi không bị kẹt vào con mắt này. Cái tai này không phải là tôi không bị kẹt vào cái tai này. Cái mũi này không phải là tôi không bị kẹt vào cái mũi này. Cái lưỡi này không phải là tôi không bị kẹt vào cái lưỡi này. Thân thể này không phải là tôi không bị kẹt vào thân thể này. Ý căn này không phải là tôi không bị kẹt vào ý căn này. Cư sĩ quán niệm tiếp như sau về 6 đối tượng giác quan. Những hình sắc này không phải là tôi không bị kẹt vào những hình sắc này. Âm thanh này không phải là tôi không bị kẹt vào những âm thanh này. Mùi hương này không phải là tôi không bị kẹt vào mùi hương này. Những vị nếm này không phải là tôi không bị kẹt vào những vị nếm này. Những xúc chạm này không phải là tôi không bị kẹt vào những xúc chạm này. Ý tưởng này không phải là tôi không bị kẹt vào những ý tưởng này. Cư sĩ hãy quán niệm tiếp như sau về 6 thức. Cái thấy này không phải là tôi không bị kẹt vào cái thấy. Cái nghe này không phải là tôi không bị kẹt vào cái nghe này. Cái ngửi này không phải là tôi không bị kẹt vào cái ngửi này. Cái nếm này không phải là tôi không bị kẹt vào cái nếm này. Cái xúc chạm này không phải là tôi không bị kẹt vào cái xúc chạm này. Cái ý thức này không phải là tôi không bị kẹt vào ý thức này. Cư sĩ hãy quán niệm tiếp như sau về 6 yếu tố trong cơ thể. Yếu tố đất không phải là tôi không bị kẹt vào yếu tố đất. Yếu tố nước không phải là tôi không bị kẹt vào yếu tố nước. Yếu tố lửa không phải là tôi không bị kẹt vào yếu tố lửa. Yếu tố gió không phải là tôi không bị kẹt vào yếu tố gió. Yếu tố không gian không phải là tôi không bị kẹt vào yếu tố không gian. Yếu tố tâm thức không phải là tôi không bị kẹt vào yếu tố tâm thức. Cư sĩ hãy quán niệm tiếp như sau về 5 uẩn. Hình sắc không phải là tôi không bị giới hạn bởi hình sắc. Cảm thọ không phải là tôi không bị giới hạn bởi cảm thọ. Tri giác không phải là tôi không bị giới hạn bởi tri giác. Tâm hành không phải là tôi không bị giới hạn bởi tâm hành. Nhận thức không phải là tôi không bị giới hạn bởi nhận thức. Cư sĩ quán niệm tiếp như sau về thời gian. Quá khứ không phải là tôi không bị giới hạn bởi quá khứ. Hiện tại không phải là tôi không bị giới hạn bởi hiện tại. Tương lai không phải là tôi không bị giới hạn bởi tương lai. Này cư sĩ, các pháp đều do nhân duyên sinh khởi và do nhân duyên mà hoại diệt. Thật ra tự tánh của các pháp là không sinh cũng không diệt, không tới cũng không đi. Khi con mắt này phát sinh, nó phát sinh không từ đâu tới cả. Khi con mắt này hoại diệt, nó hoại diệt không đi về đâu cả. Con mắt không phải là không trước khi phát sinh. Con mắt không phải là có trước khi hoại diệt. Tất cả các pháp đều do nhân duyên hội tụ mà thành. Nhân duyên đầy đủ thì con mắt có mặt, nhân duyên thiếu vắng thì con mắt vắng mặt. Điều này cũng đúng với tai, mũi, lưỡi, thân và ý, hình sắc, âm thanh, mùi, hương, vị, nếm, xúc chạm và ý tưởng. cái thấy, cái nghe, cái ngửi, cái nếm, xúc chạm và ý thức. Và cũng đúng với 6 yếu tố năm uẩn và thời gian. Trong năm uẩn không có gì có thể được gọi là ta, là người, là thọ mạng. Không thấy được sự thật đó tức là vô minh. Vì vô minh mà có vọng động, vì có vọng động mà có vọng thức, vì vọng thức mà có sự phân biệt chủ thể và đối tượng nhận thức, vì có chủ thể và đối tượng nhận thức mà có sự phân biệt 6 căn và 6 trần, vì có sự phân biệt 6 căn và 6 trần mà có cảm xúc, xúc chạm, vì có xúc chạm mà có cảm thọ, vì có cảm thọ mà có tham ái, vì có tham ái mà có vướng mắc, vì có vướng mắc mà có hiện hữu rồi sinh tử, khổ não và u sầu không thể kể xiết. Cư sĩ, ông đã quán niệm để thấy được rằng mọi pháp đều do nhân duyên mà phát khởi và không có tự tánh riêng biệt. Đó gọi là phép quán về không, một phép quán niệm cao siêu và bậc nhất. Thực tập đến đây, trưởng giả cấp cô độc khóc, nước mắt chan hòa. Đại đức A Nan hỏi: cư sĩ, vì sao mà ông khóc? Ông thực tập thành công không? Không thành công hay sao? Ông có nuối tiếc gì không? Trưởng giả cấp cô độc trả lời: thưa đại đức, con không tiếc nuối gì cả. Con thực tập rất là thành công. Con khóc là vì con cảm động quá. Con có duyên phụng sự Bụt, các bậc cao đức từ lâu lắm rồi, mà con chưa từng được nghe một giáo pháp nào vi diệu, mầu nhiệm và quý báu như giáo pháp hôm nay con được Đại Đức Xá Lợi Phất trao truyền. Lúc ấy Đại Đức A Nan bảo trưởng giả các cô độc: cư sĩ nên biết giáo pháp này các vị khất sĩ và nữ khất sĩ được nghe một giảng dạy rất thường. Trưởng giả các cô độc thưa: bạch Đại Đức A Nan, xin Đại Đức bạch với lại Đức Thế Tôn, để giới cư sĩ chúng con cũng có dịp được nghe những giáo pháp vi diệu như giáo pháp này. Có những cư sĩ không đủ sức nghe, hiểu và hành trì những giáo pháp này, nhưng cũng có những vị cư sĩ đủ sức nghe, hiểu và hành trì những giáo pháp thập thanh vi diệu ấy. Nghe và thực tập với hai thầy xong, cư sĩ cấp cô độc thấy trong cơ thể mình, thân thể nhẹ nhàng, thanh thoát. Ông phát được tâm vô thượng. Các thầy Xá Lợi Phất và A Nan vừa từ giả ra về, thì cư sĩ cấp cô độc mạng chung và sinh lên cõi trời tam thập tam thiên.
Dear community, we invite you to contemplate with us the discourse on the teachings to be given to the sick. I heard these words of the Buddha one time when the Lord was staying in the monastery in the Jeta Grove in Anathapindika's park near Shravasti. At that time, the householder Anathapindika was seriously ill. When the Venerable Shariputra was told this, he immediately went to Ananda and said, Brother Ananda, let us go and visit the layman Anathapindika. The Venerable Ananda replied, yes, let us go now. The Venerable Ananda put on his robe, took his bowl, and went into the town of Shravasti with the Venerable Shariputra to make the alms round. Ananda walked behind Shariputra, stopping at every house until they came to the house of the layman Anathapindika, and they went in to visit him. After he had sat down, the Venerable Shariputra asked the layman Anathapindika, how is your illness? It is getting better or worse? Is the physical pain easing at all, or is it getting greater? The householder Anathapindika replied, Venerable monks, it does not seem to be getting better. The pain is not easing, it is getting greater all the time. Shariputra said, "Friend Anathapindika, now is the time to practice the meditation on the three jewels, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. The Buddha has gone to suchness, is fully and truly awakened, has perfected understanding and action, has arrived at true happiness, understands the nature of the world, is unequaled in understanding, has conquered the afflictions of human beings, is the teacher of devas and humans, and is the awakened one, the one who liberates the world. The Dharma is the teaching of love and understanding that the Tathagata, the Buddha, has expounded. It is deep and lovely, worthy of the highest respect and very precious. It is a teaching that cannot be compared to ordinary teachings. It is the path of practice for the noble ones. The Sangha is the community of practice, guided by the teachings of the awakened one. The community is in harmony. Within it, all aspects of the practice can be realized. The community is respected and precious. It practices the precepts and realizes concentration, insight, and liberation. Offerings made to the Sangha are very beneficial. Friend Anathapindika, if you meditate this way on the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, the beneficial effects are beyond measure. Meditating in this way, you can destroy the obstacles of wrong deeds and afflictions. You can harvest a fruit that is as fresh and sweet as the balm of compassion. A woman or man practicing an upright way of life who knows how to meditate on the three jewels will have no chance of falling into the three lower realms, but will be reborn as a human or deva. Friend Anathapindika, now it is the time to practice meditation on the 6 sense bases. These eyes are not me. I am not caught in these eyes. These ears are not me. I am not caught in these ears. This nose is not me. I am not caught in this nose. This tongue is not me. I am not caught in this tongue. This body is not me. I am not caught in this body. This mind is not me. I am not caught in this mind. Now, continue your meditation with the 6 sense objects. These forms are not me. I am not caught in these forms. These smells are not me. I am not caught in these sounds are not me. I am not caught in these sounds. These smells are not me. I am not caught in these smells. These tastes are not me. I am not caught in these tastes. These contacts with the body are not me. I am not caught in these contacts with the body. These thoughts are not me. I am not caught in these thoughts. Now, continue your meditation on the 6 sense consciousnesses. Sight is not me. I am not caught in sight. Hearing is not me. I am not caught in hearing. Consciousness based on the nose is not me. I am not caught in consciousness based on the nose. Consciousness based on the tongue is not me. I am not caught in consciousness based on the tongue. Consciousness based on the body is not me. I am not caught in consciousness based on the body. Consciousness based on the mind is not me. I am not caught in consciousness based on the mind. Now, continue your meditation on the 6 elements. The earth element is not me. I am not caught in the earth element. The water element is not me. I am not caught in the water element. The fire element is not me. I am not caught in the fire element. The air element is not me. I am not caught in the air element. The space element is not me. I am not caught in the space element. The consciousness element is not me. I am not caught in the consciousness element. Now, continue your meditation on the 5 aggregates. Form is not me. I am not limited by the form aggregate. Feelings are not me. I am not limited by the feeling aggregate. Perceptions are not me. I am not limited by the perception aggregate. Mental formations are not me. I am not limited by the mental formation aggregate. Consciousness is not me. I am not limited by the consciousness aggregate. Now, continue your meditation on the 3 times. The past is not me. I am not limited by the past. The present is not me. I am not limited by the present. The future is not me. I am not limited by the future. Friend Anathapindika, everything that arises is due to causes and conditions. Everything that is has the nature not to be born and not to die, not to arrive and not to depart. When eyes arise, but they do not come from anywhere. When eyes cease to be, they cease to be, but they do not go anywhere. Eyes are neither non-existent before they arise, nor are they existent after they arise. Everything that comes to be because of a combination of causes and conditions. When the causes and conditions are sufficient, eyes are present. When the causes and conditions are not sufficient, eyes are absent. The same is true of ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind, form, sound, smell, taste, touch, and thought, sight, hearing, and the consciousness based on the nose, tongue, body, and mind, the 6 elements, the 5 aggregates, and the 3 times. In the 5 aggregates, there's nothing that we can call I, a person, or a soul. Ignorance is the inability to see this truth. Because there is ignorance, there are mistaken impulses. Because there are mistaken impulses, there is mistaken consciousness. Because there is mistaken consciousness, there is the distinction between the perceiver and the perceived. Because there is this distinction between the perceiver and the perceived, there is distinction between the 6 organs and the 6 sense objects. Because there is distinction between the 6 organs and the 6 sense objects, there is contact. Because there is contact, there is feeling. Because there is feeling, there is thirst. Because there is thirst, there is grasping. Because there is grasping, there is being. Because there is becoming, there are birth and death, and the subsequent pain and grief. Friend Anathapindika, you have meditated that everything arises is due to causes and conditions and does not have a separate self. That is called the meditation on emptiness. It is the highest and most profound meditation. When he had practiced to this point, the layman Anathapindika began to cry. Venerable Ananda asked him, "Friend, why are you crying? Has your meditation not been successful? Do you have some regret?" The layman Anathapindika replied, "Venerable Ananda, I do not regret anything. The meditation has been most successful. I am crying because I am so deeply moved. I have been fortunate to be able to serve the Buddha and his community for many years, yet I have never heard a teaching so wonderful and precious as the teaching transmitted by the Venerable Shariputra today." Then the Venerable Ananda said to the layman Anathapindika, "Do you not know, friend, that the Buddha often gives this teaching to bhikshus, bhikshunis, monks and nuns?" The layman Anathapindika replied, "Venerable Ananda, please tell the Buddha that there are also lay people with the capacity to listen, understand, and put into practice these deep and wonderful teachings." After hearing Shariputra's instructions and meditating accordingly, Anathapindika felt free and at ease. The Venerable Shariputra and Ananda bade him farewell and went back to the monastery. And Anathapindika passed away and was reborn in the 33rd heaven.
Kính mời đại chúng thân chủ page 8. Trầm hướng sông ngang điện sáng tơ bốn hiện thân pháp giới thành thanh tịnh chúng sanh lắng nghiệp trần đệ tử tâm thành hướng về tam bảo bồ là thầy chỉ đạo bậc tịnh thức vẹn toàn tướng tốt đoan trang trí và bi viên mãn ở pháp là con đường sáng dẫn người thoát cõi mê đưa con trở về sống cuộc đời tình thức tâm là đoàn thể đẹp mà cùng đi trên đường vui tu tập giải thoát làm an lạc cuộc đời để tử nương nhờ tam bảo trên con đường học đạo biết tam bảo của tự tâm nguyện xin chuyên cần làm sáng lòng ba miếng ngọc quyến nguyện theo hơi thở nụ cười tươi nguyện hồng nhìn cuộc đời bằng con mắt quang chiếu nguyện xin tìm hiểu nỗi khổ của mọi loài tập từ bi hành hỷ xả sáng cho người thêm niềm vui chiều giúp người bớt khổ để tự nguyện sống cuộc đời tiêu dung nếp sống lành mạnh an hòa cho thân thể kiện khương nguyện rủ bỏ lo học nghề thứ bao dung cho tâm tư nhẹ nhõm để tự sinh nguyện ơn sâu đền báo ơn cha mẹ ơn thầy ơn bè bạn chúng sanh nguyện tu thập tinh chuyên cho cây bi trí đời hoa
buộc pháp tăng chứng minh gia hộ cho đệ tử chúng con biến thành đại nguyện.
Đại chúng mở sang trang số 22, turn to page 22. Nguyện ngày an lành đêm an lành, ngày đêm sau thời đều an lành.
An lành trong mỗi giây mỗi phút, cầu ơn tam bảo luôn che chở.
Nam mô Đức Bồ Tát Tiêu Tai Giác Kiên Tường. Nam mô Đức Bồ Tát Tiêu Tai Giác Kiên Tường.
Nam mô Đức Bồ Tát Tiêu Tai Giác Kiên Tường.
Con về nương tựa Bồ Ngát, người đưa đường chỉ lối cho con trong cuộc đời.
Con về nương tựa pháp con đường của tình thương và sự hiểu biết.
Con về nương tựa tâm toàn thể của những người nguyện sống cuộc đời tình thương.
Trì tụng kinh tâm diệu, tạo công đức vô biên. Đệ tử xin hồi hướng cho chúng sanh mọi miền.
Pháp môn sinh nguyện hồng, ơn nghĩa sinh nguyện đền, phiền não sinh nguyện đoạn, phật sinh
chứng đền.
Nam mô Đông Phương Giáo Chủ Tiêu Tai Viên Thọ Dưỡng Sư Lưu Ly Quán Như Lai Tăng Đại Chứng Minh. Nam mô Tây Phương Cực Lạc Thế Giới Đại Từ Đại Bi Thiên Vấn Đạo Sư A Di Đà Phật Thủy Từ Chứng Giám. Hôm nay đệ tử chúng con cũng đôi phần tiền lễ vật kỳ kinh tọa thiền công đức, nguyện hồi hương chung cho thế giới hòa bình, chúng sanh an lạc, thiên tai hạn dình sớm tiêu trừ. Nhà nhà ấm nó mọi người được bình an lợi lạc. Nguyện xin hồi hướng công đức lành này, báo tiếng siêu độ các vị hương linh. Phật tử nguyện thị ba pháp danh diệu hằng quá tô kiêu sinh in thái nguyện thanh pháp danh thánh tâm tình. Trần Kiến Hòa Tệ Minh Phạm Thị Lịch Diệu Giác Quỳnh Phi Long Minh Thọ Dương Thị Liên Diệu Hòa Tự Giác Tình. Chân linh sa di ni Bồ Tát giới quy tâm mai tự hành duyên hiệu chứng bảo nguyện thế danh phan thị đệ hương linh vi xuân trần thành lâm định thái lâm định quy lâm ngọc minh lưu mỹ khánh phạm thị hòa lâm phá tân sa pháp danh tề quan độ en đi trần hồng tân đặng việt đức trần hùng xuyến tố xưng huệ. Nguyện tất cả chư hương linh nương nhờ Phật lực lai đao Phật tiền thính pháp nghe kinh tông thoát mê đồ siêu sanh tịnh độ. Lại nguyện kỳ an chư hiện tiền Phật tử chúng con cùng các vị tinh chủ trần thị sinh pháp danh chung thể lê thị bé hoàng chánh hoàng liên châu pháp danh diệu bộ nguyện thị bạch tuyên minh ngọc phạm sinh kiến khánh chiết chiêu chu thiếu vương vương thị hoàng hải ngân nguyện mạch phương thi nguyện mạch phúc trần Andrew Đinh. Nguyện tất cả thân tâm thanh tịnh khổ bệnh tiêu trừ bốn mùa không còn chung tai hương tam thiên phước lớn như Đông Hải. Lại nguyện Phật tử hiện tại vương thọ miên trường pháp giới âm dương đều thành Phật đạo. Nguyện đem công đức này hướng về khắp tất cả đệ tử và chúng sanh đều trọn thành Phật đạo.
Dear community, we invite you to release your legs before we stand up. Thỉnh đại chúng xả chân trước khi đứng dậy. In gratitude to our parents who have given us life, to our country who has offered us security and protection, we touch the earth deeply to the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha in the 10 directions. Đệ tử chúng con nhớ cha mẹ sanh thành quốc dân bảo hộ, cúi đầu kính lễ tam bảo thường trú trong 10 phương. In gratitude to our teachers who have guided us, shown us the way, and our friends who support us on this path, we touch the earth deeply to the 3 jewels in the 10 directions. Đệ tử chúng con nhớ sư trưởng giáo huấn các bậc thiện tri thức và chư vị tinh thí đàn na, cúi đầu kính lễ tam bảo thường trụ trong 10 phương. In gratitude to all beings in the animal, plant and mineral worlds, we touch the earth deeply to the 3 jewels in the 10 directions. Đệ tử chúng con nhớ mọi loài chúng sanh, cây cỏ và đất đá, cúi đầu kính lễ tam bảo thường trụ trong 10 phương. Kính mời đại chúng, chúng ta ngồi xuống. Dear community, we invite you to be seated. Nam mô Bổn Sư Thích Ca Mâu Ni Phật. Con kính bạch thầy, kính thưa toàn thể đại chúng. Trước khi chúng ta bắt đầu lắng nghe buổi chia sẻ Phật pháp bằng tiếng Anh, thì con kính mời đại chúng đồng chắp tay để chúng ta niệm danh hiệu Đức Bổn Sư 3 lần trước khi chúng ta bắt đầu. Dear friends, before we begin our sharing this morning, I'd like to invite everyone to join their palms together, and we will recite the Buddha's name 3 times in gratitude before we begin. Nam mô Bổn Sư Thích Ca Mâu Ni Phật. Nam mô Bổn Sư Dear community, today is March 15th, 2026. We are here at Trúc Lâm Monastery for our regular Sunday service. Today I would like to share to the community, continuing on a series of sharings I had done in the past, which I never had the chance to finish. In the past we were studying together, exploring together the discourse on happiness, the teaching given by the Buddha on happiness. And in this teaching, the Buddha teaches about what are some omens that we can recognize in our lives that are considered blessings, and what in one's life is considered a blessing, and what makes one's life truly worthwhile. Before we begin, I would like to read the discourse briefly so our friends who have not had the chance to listen to the discourse before will have a chance to enjoy the previous verses that we have went through. Not to be associated with the foolish ones, to live in the company of wise people, honoring those who are worth honoring, this is the greatest happiness. To live in a good environment, to have planted good seeds, and to realize that you are on the right path, this is the greatest happiness. To have a chance to learn and grow, to be skillful in your profession or craft, practicing the precepts and loving speech, this is the greatest happiness. To be able to support and serve your parents, to cherish your own family, and to have a job that brings you joy, this is the greatest happiness. To live honestly, generous in giving, to offer support to relatives and friends, living a life of blameless conduct, this is the greatest happiness. To avoid unwholesome actions, not caught by alcoholism or drugs, and to be diligent in doing good things, this is the greatest happiness. To be humble and polite in manner, to be grateful and content with a simple life, not missing the occasion to learn the Dhamma, this is the greatest happiness. To persevere and be open to change, to have regular contact with monks and nuns, and to fully participate in Dharma discussions, this is the greatest happiness. To live diligently and attentively, to perceive the noble truths, and to realize nirvana, this is the greatest happiness. To live in the world, with your heart undisturbed by the world, with all sorrows ended, dwelling in peace, this is the greatest happiness. For he or she who accomplishes this, unvanquished wherever she goes, always he is safe and happy. Happiness lives within oneself. And we went through many of these verses. We're on the second last verse, and we only have the second last one and one more to go. Today, our verse is, to live in the world with your heart undisturbed by the world, with all sorrows ended, dwelling in peace. This is the greatest happiness. And I would also like to read some alternatives in translation, and also in Vietnamese for our elders as well. He whose mind does not waver by contact with worldly contingencies, sorrowless, stainless, and secure, this is blessing supreme. Chung đụng trong nhân gian, tâm không hề lay chuyển, phiền não hết an nhiên là phước đức lớn nhất. Khi xúc chạm việc đời, tâm không động, không sầu, không uế nhiễm, an ổn là điềm lành tối thượng. Dear friends, so today I would like to reflect on the 11th verse of the Mangala Sutta, also called the Discourse on Happiness. And this verse describes that there is possible a mind that lives in the world, that is touched by the world, touches the world around it, experiences all of the changes that happen in life, yet this mind can remain stable, peaceful, and free. And it's hopeful for all of us because we all have the opportunity to experience a mind that is stable, peaceful, and free, although we are in this world, which is full of changes. And later on here, we will find out what some of these changes are. And I'm sure when we hear these changes, these different situations which we might encounter in the world, we might find ourselves, we might find that it is very familiar with us. In this particular verse, the mind that is being described is the mind of an awakened person. And the awakened person lives in the world, but is no longer inwardly shaken by it. At the same time, this verse also shows us, even if we are not fully enlightened like a Buddha, the path and the direction which the path leads to. The path of practice can lead us to. In the teachings of the Buddha, there are something called the 8 worldly winds. And the Buddha taught that essentially human life is touched by what we call the 8 worldly conditions, or the 8 worldly winds. And they come in 4 pairs. The first pair is gain and loss. The second pair is fame and disrepute, or fame and non-fame or defame, praise and blame, and the other pair is pleasure and pain. And these 4 pairs are like winds which blow through every life. Sometimes we gain something we value and we're very happy. Sometimes we lose something that is dear to us, and it can stir in us so much sorrow. Sometimes people praise us. Sometimes people blame us. Sometimes they criticize us. Sometimes life can bring feelings of happiness and comfort, but sometimes life can also bring difficulty and pain. And none of us are exempt from these conditions. Even the Buddha himself, as a teacher, as an awakened teacher, still experienced praise and criticism, comfort and illness in his life. And So the question is maybe not whether these winds will continue to blow or not. They will, but the deeper question is what inside us is shaken by them, and how can we be like a mountain, solid and great, stable, solid and great amidst these winds that blow through. The Buddha points towards some deeper causes of disturbance within our mind itself, and at the root of all of these disturbances, these afflictions, are three most powerful tendencies, which in Buddhism we call sometimes the three poisons, sometimes we call them, sometimes they're referred to as a kind of fire as well, and that is greed, hatred, and delusion or ignorance. When greed is present, we cling. We cling to gain, and we fear losing things. When hatred is present, we find that blame and criticism easily stir our heart with anger. And when delusion clouds the mind, we misunderstand the situations and we react blindly. We do not see things as they truly are, see things as they really are. And the way that a practitioner can see things as they truly are is with mindfulness. And dear friends, if we remember in the Discourse to be given to the sick, Venerable Shariputra mentioned to Anathapindika that because there is ignorance, there are mistaken impulses. And ignorance, in a way, is a foundation of all of our suffering. Ignorance is nothing much of a heavy term in the context of the teachings of the Buddha, but ignorance is not being able to see clearly, like being in a dark forest and not knowing, not seeing where to go. And like I offered an example last week, mindfulness is something that is like a light, a torch in a dark forest. And with mindfulness, we know where we're going. So we don't trip over tree roots, we don't bump into trees. If it's a room, we don't stub our toe, and we make much, much less mistakes, much, much less suffering. So as long as these three forces remain active in our mind, the worldly winds easily disturb us. It's not simply only the events of the world that shake our mind, but it's also the defilements within the mind that cause our mind to be unstable. One time the Buddha spoke of these three defilements, these three main defilements, as an example of fire. And he said, all is burning. The eye is burning, the forms are burning, the mind is burning, and it is burning with the fires of greed, hatred, and confusion. Greed, hatred, and delusion. And as long as these fires continue to burn within the mind, life becomes very agitated, very painful. But when these fires gradually cool down through our understanding, through our insight, which can be gained through mindfulness and our practice of mindfulness, the mind becomes more calm, more peaceful, and more clear. For many of us, and I'm sure many of us here at the monastery on the Sunday to join us in this service, a common experience that we can relate to, and not just the families which have joined us for the service here, but all of us here in life. Just like the time when I shared about the story of Kisa Gotami, the deepest experience in our life is the grief that arises when we lose someone that is dear to us. And the Buddha never denied this human experience at all, but he invited us to not suppress that grief and not to pretend that it is not there, but instead use the teachings, use mindfulness to understand the nature of it more deeply, so that even when it does arise, it does not completely drown us out. Because we have the Dhamma, the teachings, and our practice, whatever it is that is causing pain, sorrow, can gradually be held with mindfulness, understanding, wisdom, and compassion. And this understanding doesn't remove our humanity and who we are, but it can give us a deeper sense of stability in our mind, in our heart. One of the things that stands out in the practice for me is being able to understand and compassion itself. In the sutra, which I will draw from today, besides the Mangala Sutta, there's a sutta called the Akusalamula Sutta, which means the discourse given on the three skillful roots. The three unskillful roots. And in this discourse, the Buddha shares that there are three unskillful roots, as we heard: greed, hatred, and ignorance, which cause suffering. But there are also three opposite skillful roots, which can bring about happiness. And I read through it this morning, and one thing that really resonated with me was that two of those three skillful roots, which are a kind of opposite to greed, hatred, and delusion, are understanding and love. And we always repeat understanding and love as the two wings of the teachings of the Buddha. Understanding meaning wisdom, and love meaning compassion. When I feel like we bring understanding to ourselves firstly, we bring understanding to others, we want to understand ourselves and others. And perhaps the reason why we want to understand ourselves and others is because we see that we suffer and others suffer, and we want to do something to make the other person suffer less, the other person happy. And the way that we approach this in the practice is firstly the capacity to be able to love someone else comes deeply from the capacity to be able to understand them, to understand their deepest aspirations, to understand their deepest difficulties, to understand their sorrows, to understand their joy, their happiness. And so the loved ones in our lives, if we truly want to be able to love them with all of our heart, we can practice to understand them. And often we say we understand our loved ones around us, but truly, maybe we don't make enough time in order to really, really understand our loved ones. I know that personally for myself, I don't get to be near my parents as often. And in the monastery, I live with my brothers and I live with my teacher. And so I've never really had the chance to understand my parents. Although I live far away from them and sometimes they visit me, not often anymore. Sometimes I get to see them when I go home to visit them, but they're very busy. And so as I practice more and more, I feel like even though being far away from my parents, practicing to understand myself, I can understand my parents partially. And not through just understanding myself and being able to understand my parents, through understanding myself, I find that I can understand many people through understanding me. Because often the many difficulties that I have are similar in nature to the difficulties that others have. There's kind of a foundation that we all struggle with. We struggle with finding ways to transform the three poisons, for example: greed, hatred, and ignorance. And as human beings, aside from these unskillful roots, greed, hatred, and ignorance, we also have the roots of contentment, the roots of love, the roots of understanding. But often these skillful roots are not watered as strongly
as the unskillful roots. And because we lack mindfulness, that is why we lack understanding. And these roots of greed, hatred, and ignorance take root stronger and stronger every day. One common experience, I think, that everyone faces is that we become angry at points and at times, and there are different degrees of greed. There is greed that is really, really harmful, but of course there is greed that is not so harmful. For example, being greedy with food, or perhaps being greedy with wealth, desiring something, the best thing for ourselves, maybe not thinking so much of others, and misunderstandings, ignorance, is something that we're all in the same boat in. In the teachings of the Buddha, we can see that greed, hatred, and ignorance are a kind of poison. Sometimes they're called the three poisons, that's why. And when they become a poison, like one person, if they drink a bottle of poison, they get sick. And when they get sick, they lose control of their body and mind. And it's the same with greed, hatred, and ignorance. When our loved ones become angry, or we become angry, we lose ourselves. And because that anger has seeped through us, is slowly spreading through us and taking over us, we're not ourselves anymore. It's a kind of intoxication of anger, or intoxication of greed or of ignorance. And it's all a very common human condition. So when I can see in myself that I am in this situation, and I am sometimes still the victim of my greed, my hatred, and my ignorance, I can form a lot of compassion for those around me who might act unskillfully because of their greed, hatred, and ignorance. And instead of blaming the other person for their wrongdoing, we understand that everything comes from the root of ignorance, the root of misunderstanding, the root of forgetfulness. And when somebody is poisoned by their greed, hatred, or ignorance, they become not their normal self anymore. And we often see that we're the same. We might say something very hurtful to someone that we love a lot when we are angry. Families, brothers and sisters grow up together in the same household, but then when they grow up and there are some problems financially, there are financial disputes, and then they don't look at each other anymore. They don't want to talk to each other anymore, even parents and children. But seeing these roots in myself, I can see these roots in others. Seeing the suffering that it has caused in myself, I can also see that it has caused sufferings in others. And that helps a lot of compassion to be born in my heart. The last mindfulness day, which was yesterday, my younger brothers, they were supposed to help me in the morning, because I requested that they help me in the morning to set up some things for the mindfulness day. And as I went up, I found myself alone, and I didn't know where they were. And I looked around and tried to find them. And then I tried to look around, but I didn't see them, so I thought, they're probably downstairs and they're probably sleeping. And that was my guess. So I went downstairs and I opened the door, and then I saw two of them sleeping on their beds, curled like little shrimps. And I was a little bit unhappy at that moment because it was just me, and it was stressful because it was just me preparing everything and trying to make everything be on time for the practitioners that would come to join us in Mindfulness Day. But during that moment, I paused and breathed for a second. And instead of yelling at them, or instead of shaking them very, very aggressively, or instead of shouting at them, I took a moment to breathe. And then I remembered all of the times where I felt tired. I remember all of the times where I felt sleepy and I couldn't make it to things. And when I remembered those moments, suddenly I saw myself in them. And once I was able to understand that difficulty, the difficulty of not being able to wake up or trying to be awake when your body is not well rested, understanding led to compassion being born in me. And because I was able to understand that, I didn't wake them up. And I continued to go upstairs with a lot of happiness in my heart, a lot of compassion. And I was able to lead the Sangha for morning meditation. And then very, very calmly later when I saw them, I took them into the room and I explained to them that this morning I had needed their help. And I told them that this is why I try my best to remind you guys to sleep early, because if we can't sleep early, then it's really hard for us to be awake during the day. And I felt like mindfulness and being taught the teachings of the Buddha, being always ready to respond with understanding and ready to respond with compassion as the first way to respond has helped me in that situation and many, many other situations in my life as well. So this is where I wanted to share with you this story, just to bring to light the meaning of understanding and compassion. So of the three skillful roots, we have understanding and love, or understanding and compassion. And the other one is contentment. The Buddha says that with greed, we practice to lessen our greed, but we also practice to increase our reflection on contentment, seeing that we have already many conditions for us to be happy. And once we realize that we have more than enough to be happy, this greed naturally goes away. This greed naturally is transformed. And there are so many conditions, as we listen to in the Discourse on happiness, that we already have. Being able to serve and support our parents, being able to listen to the Dharma, being able to, perhaps many of us also have a job that we enjoy. And if not fulfilling one of those different happinesses, we have fulfilled others. We have a roof over our head, we have a place to sleep, we have eyes that are still working and we can see the beauty of life around us. We have ears that are still well and we can hear, we can listen to the sound of our beloved, we can listen to the sounds of the birds. And so with contentment, we see that we already have so much and more than enough to be happy. And that counters the unskillful root of greed. In order to counter the unskillful root of hatred, we use love. We use compassion, just like in the story that I shared with you. And in order to counter the root of ignorance, we use understanding. We use mindfulness, just like the story that I shared with you. So the Buddha said in this discourse, the Akusala Mula Sutta, that when a loving person acts through body, speech, or mind, their actions are wholesome. Because the mind is not overcome by hatred, such a person does not harm others through punishment, accusation, or misuse of power. From love, many wholesome qualities arise. Understanding as well. The Buddha taught that understanding or wisdom is the root of the unskillful. When understanding, a person acts through their body, speech, and mind, their actions are guided by clarity rather than confusion. And such a person speaks carefully and truthfully. Their speech becomes well-timed, meaningful, and aligned with the Dharma. If someone offers valid criticism, they can also accept and reflect. Even if someone makes a mistaken accusation, they can calmly explain the truth rather than reacting with anger. There's just so many misunderstandings in our lives because we are not able to see everything and we're not all-knowing. There are so many misunderstandings which we are very sure of until we finally take a minute to stop, take a minute to ask again, and we find out that it was all a misunderstanding. For example, yesterday, one of my younger brothers, during meditation, he was sitting over there at the desktop, and I saw him picking at the keyboard. It was making a little bit of a noise, but it wasn't that bad. But when I stood up after guiding the Sangha in meditation and I went over there, another brother had pointed out to me that somebody had took something pointy and had scratched many lines on the rubber mat that we usually move the mouse on. And in my mind, I was sure it was him. It had to be him because he was sitting there. But then later, when I went down and I had the chance to gather all of my younger brothers and talk to them at the same time, a different brother came out to admit the mistake. So if I had been forgetful, if I had reacted right away, then I would have wrongly accused him. And this comes from misunderstanding. And misunderstanding is so easily, it just manifests so easily in our lives. And that's why we always need to be mindful, moment to moment, always guarding ourselves to make sure that we don't misunderstand others. And nearing the end of the discourse, the Buddha gives a very powerful image. The Buddha says that we can imagine a tree that has completely been entangled by thick creeping vines. And if someone cuts the vines at their roots, digs out the roots, burns the roots, and scatters the ashes so they cannot grow again, they can be eliminated. And in the same way, when love and wisdom develop in our mind, the roots of greed, hatred, and delusion can be gradually uprooted. When contentment, love, and understanding develop in the mind, gradually the roots of greed, hatred, and delusion can be gradually uprooted. And when these roots are removed, the mind becomes peaceful. This teaching says that such a person who can practice to uproot greed, hatred, and ignorance through contentment, love, and understanding becomes very happy in this life and free from distress and agitation. Through the practice, there is transformation, and this transformation happens gradually. It's not something that will happen right away. And it takes work, it takes time, and it takes effort. When a pleasant experience arises in us, the art is to be mindful of that experience, whether pleasant or unpleasant. If the experience is pleasant, then we are present with that experience without trying to grasp or to hold on to it, to be attached to it. When a painful experience arises, we observe it carefully without immediately reacting with resistance or allowing that to drown us out. When we notice that the mind is clouded or unclear, we pause, we stop, we reflect a little bit and investigate carefully so that wisdom, that understanding has a chance to arise. Moment-to-moment mindfulness allows us to see things clearly, see what is happening in our mind, in our body, and what is truly happening around us. And when we can see clearly, then the wisdom in us grows and the ignorance gradually fades. The Buddha also spoke of Nibbana or Nirvana. I'm sure many of us have heard this term before. Nirvana as a state. There's two kinds of nirvana. There's nirvana with remainders, and there's nirvana without remainders. Nirvana with remainders is nirvana in this very life, in this very world. Although our body is still here, we may be afflicted by illness, we may feel cold, we may feel hot, but our mind is not agitated, is not disturbed by the physical sensations of the body, and that is nirvana in this very life. Nibbana literally means to extinguish, like a flame going out when it is exhausted. And here it is exhausted of three things: greed, hatred, and ignorance. When there's no more greed, no more hatred, and no more ignorance that fuels our life, then we are in a state of peace. And that peace is nirvana. Nibbana in this very life. And the Buddha, when he passes away, and the physical sensations of the body, the pain, the illness also is extinguished. That is called final or complete Nibbana. During the life of the Buddha, of an awakened person, and even during our lives, we can touch nirvana. The Buddha may still experience, of course, back pain. He may still experience a tummy ache, aging, illness, but the mind no longer adds suffering on top of that pain. There's no more suffering that is added. And because there is no more suffering that is added through craving and attachment, with an equanimous mind towards everything, the Buddha's mind is always at peace. And we can practice like so in our daily lives as well. When we reflect on these teachings, we can see something very important. Is that the Buddha helps us to understand, helps us to love, helps us to understand and to love, to practice wisdom and compassion towards everything that happens. When we have a loss in our lives, when love is, in a way, in the seed of love, there is the seed of suffering. When we look deeply, we can see that when we love someone a lot, it's almost like two sides of a coin, that the more we love someone, and one day when we part, the more that we will miss them. And it's just the side of life that we kind of accept. It's like accepting the two sides of a coin, accepting that there's light and dark, there's night and day. Now, the key to the practice in the teachings of the Buddha is that acceptance through mindfulness, through understanding, and through compassion. Compassion for ourselves, and compassion that motivates ourselves to live in such a way that can fulfill not only our happiness, but through fulfilling our own happiness, we also fulfill the wishes of the other person. In our Sunday service, we have this ceremony where we offer food to our deceased loved ones. And for me, just personally for me, I think it's a chance, as I did so with my grandmother and I did so with my grandfather. It's a chance for me to be present in front of an image of my grandma or my grandpa, my deceased loved one, and to see that image, to know that they're still in me because of the teaching of interbeing. I think I kind of look like my grandma, as some people say. And kneeling in front of my grandma, I make the promise to my grandma that I will live in such a way that I can live to be happy. And I know that if my grandma was here, my grandma would want nothing more than the same thing, for me to live happily, for me to live peacefully. And to make the vow to our loved ones, to continue them, to continue their love in a new form. I can continue to be an extension of my grandma, to take care of my aunties, my uncles, to take care of my nieces, my nephews, my cousins. And that is what I think is really meaningful about the ceremony, is being able to kneel in front of the image of our deceased loved one and vow to continue them in such a way where they're never really gone from our lives. So now I would like to return to the verse again. When touched by the conditions of the world, whose mind does not shake, sorrowless, stainless, secure, this is the highest blessing. In this world there will always be gain and loss. Praise and blame will continue. Pleasure and pain will arise, and we cannot stop the winds of these 8 things from blowing. But through the understanding and practice that we have, the mind gradually becomes less shaken by them. These kind of roots are also defilements, something that makes our mind not clear. And little by little, with the practice, this defilement, this dust is cleared. Little by little, these fires of greed, hatred, and ignorance in us are cooled down. And little by little, our heart becomes more peaceful. And that is what the Buddha says is the highest blessing. So this is the second last verse that concludes so far the highest blessings that the Buddha gave in the Discourse on Happiness, and we still have one more verse to go, but that verse kind of just sums everything up. So we will have probably one more session together in order to finish this discourse. And we can see through reading the discourse, which I will share next time, that the Buddha not only shows us different conditions of happiness that we have in our lives, and allowing us to see these conditions of happiness, to reflect on ourselves, to see how many blessings that we have and to cherish those blessings. But the discourse itself is actually a process of practice, leading from practicing in the household, practicing with the Dhamma. And this is something that I will share later on the next opportunity, which I will have again to share. And today, I think I will wrap it up here. Thank you if you're listening once again. And I would like to apologize as well if my thoughts were a little bit all over the place today, because I didn't have the chance to sleep much last night. So please grace me with your kindness. Thank you. Chúng con kính cảm ơn đại chúng, và bây giờ kính mời đại chúng chắp tay hồi hướng. Thank you, dear community. Now we would like to invite everyone to join their palms so we can dedicate the merits. Nguyện đem công đức này hướng về khắp tất cả đệ tử và chúng sanh đều trọn thành Phật đạo. Please release your legs before we stand up.